Welcome, everybody, back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. For today's episode, we're going to be going over the mailbag. Now, we're going to do this one a little bit quicker than our last mailbag because last time around, we waited a little bit. I actually wasn't on that one, but Chase and Isaac went on it, and basically everyone was talking about we should go get Suzuki, and Suzuki was already a Cub. So for this one, the question is, who is the best remaining left field option? And I wrote in that question as well, this can be an in-house option, it can be via trade, or it can be a current free agent. So let's jump into them. Let's go over some of these guys and really see what people are thinking of who should be the left fielder in 2022 for the San Diego Padres. So first comment from Scott L. Meadows from Tampa Bay makes a lot of sense. We need a left-handed power outfielder. Too bad the Padres waited so long. His price tag probably went up after each free agent signing in the last week. So, Meadows, how do you guys feel about bringing in Meadows?
So obviously I think it's a good move depending on what you give up for him. Now I don't know what would be on the table in terms of what we would trade over to the Rays, but when you look at his numbers last year, he batted 234, had a 27 home run season and a 2 WAR. So I mean that was also considering he did not really benefit from how much he was being shifted on. That kind of went against him. 27 home runs is fantastic. I think that'd go up at Petco Park. And I mean, there'd be days, of course, where maybe he'll DH when Luke Voigt is on the field. And I don't know. I just feel like he provides kind of some versatility. He could play both corner outfield spots and DH, so that'd be good, especially considering Will Myers is. I mean, we've all been saying he's not the best right fielder anymore. He can't really cover that much ground. We think he'd project better as a left fielder. We think he'd be more valuable there. So if you can get Meadows and you can plug him in right, that'd be great. And the thing with like, I've seen people. I didn't read the whole mailbag, but I'm pretty sure he's in there. Somebody probably said Tommy Pham. The thing with Tommy Pham is that he's exclusively a left fielder. So you're not going to get the most out of Will Myers. You're going to have another poor defensive outing or poor defensive showing from Will. And that's not what we need, especially considering his contract. But regarding Austin Meadows, I mean, let me see what his OPS was. I don't remember him having crazy numbers, a 772 OPS, but in 2019, it looks like he was an all-star with a 922 OPS. So there's definitely a lot of upside there. And who knows? Maybe he just needs to change the scenery or something because last year wasn't his best and neither was 2020. But obviously, it's a move that at least everybody I've seen wants. Everybody's heavily invested in Austin Meadows right now. And I don't know if I'm like heavily like invested. I don't know if I'm fully in on it, but it's a move that, quite frankly, we need to make. We need to make a move for an outfielder, and if Austin Meadows is the guy for it, and he hits 30 home runs, it looks like. Let me see. In his full seasons, he would hit 27 and 33 in 2019 and 2021. In each of those, he played around 140 games and had almost 30 home runs in one and over 30 home runs in another. So that's something we desperately need right now. That's why Luke Voigt was such a big pickup, and I'd be happy to see more power come to San Diego.
I'd say Austin Meadows is a necessity because I think it's anything but Tommy Pham and any other free agent signing at this point, because I don't think you can get Conforto on a 1-year deal that's going to be cheap. I think he's going to sign like a 3-year contract, kind of similar to Soler, but for more money. So at that point, you're looking at, okay, what other left fielder could we trade? Ketel Marte is probably not realistic because there's not a lot of interdivisional trading. And if there is, I honestly don't know what the Diamondbacks should ask for because Ketel Marte, when healthy, is probably a 5+ WAR player. He's a good switch hitter. He can field. He's flies like the wind. He's got an arm, play all 3 outfield positions, and he can play most of the infield positions, probably minus third and first. So looking at it, you're like, okay, Austin Meadows looks like the best option. Another lefty power bat. Can probably play right field better than Myers, and Myers can move over to left where he won't be a defensive liability. And then the other options, I know someone's probably going to mention Tommy Pham. That means you're getting Tommy Pham playing probably way below average defense in left, and then below average defense for Myers in right. And we saw Tommy Pham in left field. It wasn't great. There was a lot of drop balls that should have been miscommunications between center field and shortstop. There was times where he wasn't really running to the ball, or he would just simply lose it down the left field line, and it would turn into a double or a triple because he couldn't find the ball. And then he was dealing with a lot of issues with his contacts last year, and I think the year before that too, where it caused him to significantly slump for a period of time. So looking at it, you go, Austin Meadows is probably the best option there is out of the realistic options for the Padres. You kind of have to go that route unless you want to go Nolan Zara and Profar platooning left field, because they said Abrams won't be playing the outfield. He's more than likely just going to be sticking to the positions that he knows, which is probably going to be short and second. They're not saying that he won't play outfield in the future, but right now they're just trying to keep him comfortable. And outside of that, there's not really a guy that's going to run away with the left field job other than either Profar or it seems Mazzara at this point. So I think you kind of have to go for Austin Meadows.
Yeah, and Austin Meadows has been a guy that people have been talking a lot as potentially becoming a Padre. Some of the trade stuff that I've seen is Paddock for him. I saw someone, I don't know if it was on our channel or I just was reading a tweet today. Someone said Paddock and then some for Austin Meadows. I think that if you traded Paddock for Meadows, I think you're probably getting something more just because Paddock's a pitcher and yes, he's struggled. But Austin Meadows, I mean, you look at his career numbers, I don't think they're anything that crazy. He's probably going to be 2-3 WAR player in left field. Going to hit around 30 bombs, like you said, Isaac. But in terms of like what's like really there, it's like, oh, he's pretty solid power hitter, and there's not a ton besides that. So I kind of wonder what the deal would look like if they go and trade for Austin Meadows, because it's not going to be something crazy substantial. Like it's not going to be the Padres like breaking off like a top end piece in their farm. It'd probably be a couple lower end guys. But one thing to also mention is the Tampa Bay Rays just traded for another outfielder. So Austin Meadows could very well be on the move, and he could end up being a Padre. So and a couple other people brought up Austin Meadows in here as well, as we'll get into them, but I definitely think that could be an option. Arthur says my go-to option would be Meyer, since it seems like they won't be trading well. The team should sign Michael Conforto to one of those 1-year prove-it deals and structure it so he makes a certain amount this year and then next year, much like the A's did with Trevor Rosenthal last year. Myers in left field is just better defensively, and Conforto was an average fielder in 2019 through 2020. An upgrade defensively and offensively, and won't completely break the bank. Not to mention you keep the farm system as is. So he brought that up. Someone mind-blowing trick shots said definitely Meadows, or maybe we can get Conforto for cheaper since he had a down year. And I believe someone else brought up Conforto as well. Okay, I don't see it here, but I think someone else brought up Conforto also. Oh yes, Eduardo Lopez Aracia. He says the Padres need to add an outfielder without giving up any of our top end prospects, and they don't have a clear option on the 40-man roster. I say sign Michael Conforto to a 1-year, $12.5 million deal. I think that's about what it would cost to get him, just because he has had a couple down years. So we'll see how it looks. But what do you guys think about potentially Michael Conforto? And then we'll go over a couple names after that were brought up. But do you like the idea of bringing Michael Conforto on a prove-it deal and then moving Myers to left and then putting Conforto in right?
I don't know. Looking at his numbers right now, 2015, 841 OPS, 2016, 725, 2017, 939, 2018, 797, 2019, 856, 2020, 927, 2021, 729. So it kind of went like good, bad, good, bad, good, good, bad. So obviously there's a couple more good years than there are bad years, and I think that's a risk worth taking, especially for somebody that was as talented as he was. Who knows if he still got it? Maybe he just needed to change the scenery from the Mets. We know that, I mean, playing in New York and all probably can get to some people's heads, even though he had been playing there for a while. I mean, it's whatever. But maybe he just needs to change the scenery, and I do think he will be cheap, especially coming off a year like that where he kind of had a lot of hype around him, I would say. I remember seeing a lot of good things about him, and then I saw him have this season, and I was like, whoa, what happened, you know? So I think 12.5 million is about right, maybe even a little more. I don't think he'd be cheaper than that. He's also a good option. I think I'd prefer to go the trade route just because I think I have more confidence in Austin Meadows. I think he helps out the lineup more. If I look at the home run count, Michael Conforto's only gone over 30 home runs once he's only played more than 150 games twice also, and in those he had 28 and 33 home runs. So good amount right there. It's just obviously I guess I don't know if health has been a problem. I haven't kept up with Conforto, but I don't know. I think it's a decent option. I don't know if the Padres will be able to sign him because I think he'd be around the $13-15 million range, and I don't know if the Padres are not willing to go into the luxury tax this year because they were in it last year and they don't want to get penalized for being a second offender. So I don't know. I would like the signing. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but it's just a matter of do they have enough money to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, looking at the outfield market, it seems a lot of people have been signing to $15 million plus deals that we were expecting to go cheaper. Like we weren't expecting Suzuki to make, 5-year, $85 million. We were all expecting between 5-year and 60, maybe pushing 70 million just if a team rented him. That went past what we thought. We didn't think Chris Bryant was going to make that much. Nick Castellanos was around the range that we had Freddie Freeman, and then we're around what we thought. But a lot of guys have been making more money than we originally were going to thought. Eddie Rosario is making $9 million per year, and I think Conforto's a better player than him, and he's more consistent. And that means if he's making 9, Conforto's going to at least be making 14 plus. And if it's only on a 1-year prove-it deal, he's probably going to ask for something near 15 to 16 million. And unless, they make it very incentive-based, and then, they can probably change it a little bit. But I still don't think he's going to ask for just a 1-year deal. I think he's going to ask a multi-year deal. That means it's going to be probably between 3 and 5 years. And I don't think the Padres want another one of those contracts on their books for another 3 to 5 years when you have such young talent coming up. So I think trading for a 1-year rental is still probably the way to go. If not, taking a shot on, I don't like it, taking a shot on Mazzara and whatever in-house option you have, because it seems like that's what they're going to do. Or you know what? They're going to put Jorge Alfaro out there. That's kind of what it seems like they're going to do. And nothing we can do about it is, we can talk about how much we don't like it, but there's nothing we can do.
Yeah, I do think that Conforto is probably going to kind of price himself out of what the Padres are able to afford. So I would not expect the Padres to go after Conforto. Chase, I think you made a good point when you talk about bringing up how a 1-year prove-it deal is going to make it a lot more expensive for that 1 year. And where the Padres are at right now, that is not what they need, because next year they're freeing up $27 million between Myers and Hosmer's contracts. Myers being off the book, Hosmer's being adjusted, about $7-8 million difference from this year to next year. But you look at the options, and I'm going to look at a couple other questions here, but basically 2 ways to kind of go to finish this up. One, go over the in-house option. And then the second question I'm going to ask after this one is just going over some of the more random trade names, I would say, because Meadows is the one that's been talked about a lot. Conforto's been talked about because he is that only free agent option. But we look at in-house options. Gil says his first choice is to go in-house options. I think it's mostly from Prospect Capital. Joe Dirt, he says Nomar Mazzara, and Dennis says Alfaro as his option. So we have a few people, rocking with the in-house options. And I think Arthur also said that he would probably want to be never mind. He did not say that. I misread. We already went over Arthur's, but yeah. So a few people saying in-house options. So if they were to go in-house option, who would you want to be in left field? And if you wanted Myers in left field, who would you put in right in that case?
Good question. Trying to really think. Haven't seen enough of Mazzara. I know he's had some good seasons in Texas, or at least decent seasons to put up you can make a case for him to fight for the spot in left field. He obviously was. I remember him being a cheap option. I honestly totally forgot he was on the team until the first spring training game, and I'm pretty sure he hit a bomb, right, if I remember correctly. So I mean, I don't know. I'm the last person to buy into spring training, especially hitters, because I know pitchers are normally trying to work on their stuff in spring training. So, of course, they're going to miss their pitches sometimes. And good hitters are going to capitalize on it. So I'm a little skeptical of spring training, unless your name's CJ Abrams, then I'm all in. But I don't know. If I had to go with an option, it wouldn't be Mazzara. It wouldn't be Alfaro. I would honestly Profar, I guess. I honestly like Profar the most out of us three, and I don't even like him that much anymore. But I guess I don't know. I don't like Alfaro or Mazzara in that spot. Defensively, Profar is not that good. He's not that fast. 2020, he got on base so much. 2021, he didn't start doing that until like the back end of the season, and even then, there was times where he would still be cold. So, what are you even going to get from Profar? Like a 750 or below OPS? I kind of think that's what you'd get from any of the options, except for maybe Alfaro, because he might hit for more power. And he might be like a hidden gem that just, the Marlins can't develop players and they suck, and maybe he comes over here and he's something again, but I haven't seen enough of him to feel confident in that. So for now, I'll go Profar, but ideally I'd like to see Will Myers in left, but I really don't know who I'd put in right. I guess it'd be whoever if we traded for Meadows, he'd go to right, but I can't imagine him being a great defensive fielder. Someone let me know in the comments, is he good at defense? And he's like, all right? If I remember, yeah, I remember. But and then Conforto would also be another option, but we're running low on options, so something's got to be down here soon.
Yeah, so I'm going to go the opposite of Isaac. I think Profar should just be a utility infielder, back up Kim, if anything, right now. I would probably platoon Mazzara and Alfaro. I know Mazzara hasn't had the greatest past 2 seasons, but he's also had less than 300 at-bats in both seasons combined. So you can look at it, and you can look at 2019 where he had a pretty good year. And you can really hope that with the new coaching staff, with the new hitting coach and everything, that you get a bounce back candidate that is cheap. And you platoon him and Alfaro so that you have either a lefty or a righty bat, depending on which you want. You probably put Alfaro against lefties and you put Mazzara versus righties. And you just platoon him like that if you go in-house. And then you can play Mazzara in right field and move over Myers to left. But if Alfaro's playing, you have to move Myers back to right and put Alfaro on left, just because I don't think Alfaro's that quick on defense. He's definitely slower than Myers. He may have a little bit more pop than Mazzara, but the defense that Mazzara is going to provide is going to be greater than Alfaro. And I think he might be a nice, decent option. I mean, he's probably going to be better than Profar, both power-wise, and probably be a little bit more consistent. Because if you looked at Profar the last 2 years, even in 2020, he had a horrid first half of the season. It wasn't until like the last 20, maybe 25 games of 2020 that Profar actually started to get on base consistently, hit doubles. He still didn't provide barely any power, but he started to walk more and draw walks and actually get on base a little bit more. 2021, kind of the same thing, dealing with injuries, but the first half of the season, he didn't really do all that much. And then the second half of the season, when he finally got a little bit more healthy, he finally started getting on base. We can't have a hole in our lineup. We already have a hole in our lineup because Tatis is going to be gone for 3 months. And we know Profar starts the season off slow. So I'd rather go with the riskier option in either Mazzara or Alfaro, just because we've seen Profar at the beginning of the season. It's not pretty. And we've also seen Profar play defense in the outfield. Not that great either.
Yeah, so I hope that this is not the case. I know that there are some people that they do like the idea of the in-house options, but I don't think any of these guys are good enough to start. Now, with that said, I think Profar is a solid bat off the bench. I like Profar when he comes in and pinch hits. I think he's very good at pinch hitting. Looking at Mazzara, I think if you're going to go out and say, we're going to have Mazzara starting in our corner outfield spot, you have a really, really, really bad outfield potentially. Like, your outfield will potentially be awful. If Trent Grisham doesn't have a bounce back here and Will Myers is underwhelming again, you might have one of the worst outfields in the entire league. That is not something that that they need to be doing right now, especially with, Tatis out and still a very talented team. I know a lot of people feels like I've given up faith. We're going to have, I think, a pretty positive week in terms of talking about some of the guys on the Padres, because pitching wise, prospect wise, it's looking a lot better than it has over like the past couple of years. But left field is one area where I don't think there's anyone that I can confidently say can be an in-house option. I will say this. I think Mazzara can be the depth outfielder. I will be fine if he's a depth outfielder and kind of a little bit of like a reclamation project, because you look at last year at their outfield situation, and that was Marisnik's role. I would rather have him than Marisnik. I think that's an upgrade of your depth outfielder. So, and he can play all three spots too. So I think that's okay if you have him as your depth outfielder, but I don't think he should be your left field option. As far as Alfaro goes, maybe Alfaro's like a back end of the bench. He's like, maybe he makes the roster. He's kind of in that spot, just because there's so many catchers right now, but he does play left field also. So maybe he makes the roster as a backup catcher and a backup left fielder, and he gets a couple starts in left, but there's no way you can have either of those guys starting every day. I would say that the guy I would probably most likely want to start is probably Profar, but I don't want him to start in left field either. We've seen how he looks there. So don't want Profar in the outfield, and also don't want Profar in a starting role. So I don't think that you have a true in-house option. So it's been a big pass for me. I think you have to make a trade. You have to acquire someone. With that said, there's a few other names that got brought up in trade. I will say I am all on board for trading for Austin Meadows. I think it's something that you just have to do. I don't think Austin Meadows is great, but I think he's pretty solid. And I think you going and getting a pretty solid player with 3 years of control is a good move. It's a smart move. I know that a lot of people, and this will be the last thing I say on Austin Meadows, but I know a lot of people have talked about, you don't trade with the Rays. Guys, we got Jake Cronenworth in a trade. The reason why people say don't trade with the Rays is because the prospects you send them typically turn out to be good players. That's because the Rays know what they're doing when they develop these guys. So you trading a guy to the Rays and him having success there does not necessarily mean that he was going to have that same success in your organization. So I think that's also something that needs to get brought up. But going through these trades, gonna toss out a few names. Corbin Dallas says trade with the Royals and get Whit Merrifield. He has the speed to steal bases, and with how big Petco Park's outfield is, he could hit a lot of triples. He could be the leadoff hitter that the Padres need. Gil's first option was to go in-house. His second option is to trade for someone like Alex Verdugo. We need another left-handed power bat. Right field in Fenway is a black hole, so he should hit over 20 home runs, maybe 25 in Petco. Verdugo will cost less in terms of prospect value than Meadows, who is overrated. Tampa Bay will demand 3 top-level prospects plus your soul in return. No thanks. So Gil is not a fan of trading for Meadows. I don't think it would cost that much, Gil. I really don't. Then we have, let's see, Michael A. Montez says Meadows or Benintendi is the only way to fix this point via trade. Also, I did not bring up Chuckle's last laughs comment. He said, see if you can send Paddock plus prospects for Meadows. Otherwise, re-sign Pham and get CJ reps in left field, center field, and Cronenworth reps in left field. Not really going to touch on that one because we've really discussed like all of those parts besides Cronenworth in the outfield. But I do think that I think I mentioned something quickly about Paddock plus for prospect or for Meadows. I do think it would probably be a little bit different trade, like how it would work out. But don't mind that idea. In terms of getting CJ reps in the outfield, I love that idea. Putting Cronenworth in left field a little bit, actually not the worst idea in the world. No one really has brought that up. I've thought about it in the past, but I do wonder if that's an option that they kind of explore if left field is a spot where they just don't feel like they have anyone. But what do you guys think of Whit Merrifield or Alex Verdugo? Or is there another trade option for a corner outfield spot that you guys like?
Not that I can think of. Like I'm saying, there's not many options out there. Verdugo, I'm looking at his numbers right now. The guy hits for average really well. I'm looking at it, and in LA, 294 in 106 games. He hit 294 with 817 OPS, 12 home runs. 2020 shortened season, he hit 308 with 844 OPS, 6 home runs. 2021, 289, 777 OPS. So like he doesn't actually hit for much power, but he gets on base a lot. He has a high batting average. Of course, I don't know if a team like the Padres would necessarily benefit from that. I mean, it's just a guy that gets on base. We need guys who can hit for power because we don't really have. So right now, especially with Tatis down, it's just Manny, Cronenworth, and Voit. Other than that, you're not going to get much from the rest of the lineup in terms of power, unless you get last year's April version of Eric Hosmer. You'll get something out of him for the first month or two, but that's about it. I can't think of any other trade options though. Whit Merrifield, haven't done too much research on him, haven't looked into him too much, so I can't talk too much about that. But dude, because before the video started, I was thinking, no way we can get Tommy Pham back. And then I listened to myself say, Jerickson Profar, Nomar Mazara, or Jorge Alfaro. And I think Tommy Pham doesn't sound so bad. I know. It's not like we want him, but I was looking at their numbers, and dude, Nomar Mazara's best OPS plus isn't even 100. It's like, I understand his OPS is all right, and he hit for 20 home runs, 19 home runs, 20 home runs. But his OPS plus has never been that high. His OPS has been 750s, similar to Profar, and Profar's highest is like 113, 107. So it's not like you're getting upside from either of them. Now the thing is, Profar is a lot more expensive than Mazara. I think Mazara is less than $1 million. But that doesn't mean that Mazara should play just because he's less expensive and he's done 20 home runs before. Alfaro is kind of like the only one that I'm like, okay, maybe he might have some upside. I've never seen him play defense. Maybe he'll do something. But Tommy Pham sounds a lot more appealing right now. I'll tell you that. Matt and I have talked about it. If you look at his baseball savant, it's actually not that bad. It's really not that bad. Like, you look at it and it's a lot better than I expected. Of course, defensively, he's not going to be very good. The Braves took that route where they said, "Oh, I mean, we'll just throw some guys out there that aren't very good at defense and be all right." Rosario's good at defense. Peterson's not that good at defense. But I don't know. It's just, I'm okay with Pham if those are the only options. But if we can go get I think Austin Meadows like the last guy that we can get, and Conforto. I just checked his value because we were talking about it. You know, somebody said 12.5. His value on Spot Track right now, his estimated value is 19.1. So I can't imagine he'd take less than 16. So he's kind of going to price himself out of San Diego. But seems like Meadows is our last option, man, unless Preller makes one of those moves that nobody expects again.
Isn't Whit Merrifield a second baseman?
Yes, but I feel like he could convert to left field. He's extremely fast.
He is extremely fast. He's a little bit older, and he doesn't hit for a lot of power. That's one thing. I know that for sure. He doesn't hit for a lot of power, but he gets on base a lot, and he steals a lot. And so instead of going the Whit Merrifield option, I feel like the Andrew Benintendi option has been overlooked. I mean, we seriously need to look more into Andrew Benintendi if that is a real option. Andrew Benintendi, he's a good lefty bat. He may not hit for the most power. He plays really good defense. He will provide you some power, and he'll provide you average. He's probably the most stable left fielder out there on the market outside of Meadows. I will not go back to Tommy Pham. I will take every other option outside of that. That just leaves a sour taste in my mouth. I can't do that. And I'm just going to say this because the Braves went all out on offense, but there is a huge difference between Jorge Soler in left field and Tommy Pham in left field. They probably play similar defense, but Soler is going to get you 40 home runs. Tommy Pham is going to get you 20 home runs and like 20 home runs. We saw his power last year. It just wasn't there. And, you know, Jock and Eddie Rosario also provided probably more power than Tommy Pham would have too. Yeah. I think Andrew Benintendi is probably the best option out there. He's younger. He may get you 25 homes. He'll play good defense. You can probably move him over to right field and then move Byers back to left. So then you maximize defense. The pet portion isn't that far. He would probably get a bump up in home runs. Yeah, I'd say probably Andrew Benintendi is the second best option behind Meadows.
Interesting. So I'm looking at it. By the way, Chase, Whit Merrifield has played like a significant amount of outfield in his career, but he is primarily a second baseman. So yeah, the Royals, Whit Merrifield, Andrew Benintendi. Those are two options there. One thing that's interesting. So they're both going to be free agents after the year, assuming that Whit Merrifield's club option does not get picked up. If the Padres say they were to trade for him, I don't think they would pick it up. But you look at Whit Merrifield, you look at Benintendi. Neither of them are bringing much power to the table. However, sorry if there's a siren coming through. If you're looking at it in terms of slugging, Merrifield's actually slugging well over 400, and that's the same with Benintendi as well, because Merrifield, he might not hit as many home runs as Benintendi, but he hits a ton of gappers. So he's going to provide some more speed. Benintendi's going to provide some more pop. The difference to me is that this year, Benintendi is going to make like almost $10 million. Merrifield's going to make $2 million. Benintendi's also 26, so he's going to come at a much higher price. If you're going to go with like a cheap option, Whit Merrifield, I actually do not think is that bad of an option. So I don't hate the idea of bringing Whit Merrifield in. So maybe they do go that route. Who is the other trade piece that I brought up?
Verdugo. I think we all just kind of skipped over him.
Isaac brought up something. What do you think about Verdugo, Chase?
I think he's going to cost too much. I think the Red Sox really like him. I don't think it does us much better, like Isaac was saying. And plus, I've seen him make some really, really bad throws from the outfield. I don't know if you guys have seen the clips. There's been some times where in left field he would overthrow the catcher and go straight into the stands, or it'll be like completely down the first base line. He's had some really errant throws, and I'm good. I'm gonna pass.
Yes, that's kind of the issue with the rest of the outfield options right now for the Padres. I feel like Verdugo is kind of in a similar like in terms of like value that he's going to bring you than Benintendi, Merrifield, those kind of guys, like going and trading for someone like that. That's why I do think that Meadows is their best option. But I do have to say, I think that if I had to pick a second option, I'd probably pick Merrifield. He's not going to really provide you what the Padres necessarily need, but he's consistently between a 3 and 4 WAR player, steals about 40 bags a year. And then all of a sudden you're looking at this team and you're going, if CJ Abrams is playing and he's the second baseman, and say you move Cronenworth to first when Tatis comes back, you would have Merrifield who's stealing 40 bags a year. You'd have Grisham who's stealing 30 bags a year. You'd have CJ Abrams who can, with ease, steal 30 bags a year. And if you're going to run Tatis can steal 25, 30 bags a year as well. You would have the fastest team in the league. And I think that you'd be upgrading pretty significantly compared to last year if you were to kind of like fill out your roster that way. So I also don't think Merrifield would cost like anything because the Royals aren't good. He's on the last year of a deal and he's 32. Are they going to ask for anything at all? Maybe we even bring him as a depth piece. I don't even hate that idea because he's definitely I haven't really watched him play outfield much, but I can guarantee you that he's going to be better than Jurickson Profar in the outfield. So I actually don't hate that idea. I've never thought of it before, just because he's not really a name that would get brought up that much, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to go do that. But I still think that Austin Meadows should be your left fielder opening day. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. A much longer episode here today, but Chase, Isaac, anything else you guys want to add on for this left field discussion? All right, well, that's going to do it, guys. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about CJ Abrams, and then I'm not exactly sure what the plan is for the rest of the week, but thank you guys for the answers to this mailbag episode. Super fun to go through it, and we'll see what happens. Maybe one of these outcomes is what happens in left field. I'm expecting it to be because there's really not many options that are available, and we kind of went through like almost every single one of them, unless there's like a move that literally just comes out of nowhere. But I think that's going to do it for today's episode. So thank you all for listening, and we'll be back talking Padres baseball tomorrow.